Hello friends, today I'm going to solve LeetCode problem number 2466, count ways to build good strings. In this problem we are given integers 0, 1, low and height. And we need to construct a string by starting with an empty string, and then we perform each of either of these two steps. So we append zero number of times, or we append one number of times. Okay. And then we are going to return only the good strings, and good strings are the strings that have been formed using these two methods, and which are between which has length between low and high. So basically, we are going to form strings using zero number of times, one number of times, and then how many number of strings can we generate which are of length between low and high. That is what we need to return. And we are also going to perform the modulo operation because the answer could be very large. Okay, so let's see how we could solve this problem. So we are going to take this example. The value of low is equals to 3, high is also equals to 3. So basically our length should be greater than or equals to the low value and less than equals to high. Since our low is equals to 3 and high is also equals to 3, so our length will be equals to 3. Okay, so we are now going to create string which consists of zeros and ones, and the length should be equals to 3. Okay, so now how can we create that? Well, how many zeros can we append at once? Only one, right? How many ones can we append at one go? Only one. So if I'm creating a string as, now I want to append a zero, so how many zero can I append one at one time? Only one. Okay, so I'm going to append a zero, and then in the next iteration again, now I can either append a 0 or a 1. So I want to like append a 0. So if I'm gonna append 0, I'm only appending 1 0. Okay, now to create a string of length 3, what I can do is, I have two zeros here, right? Okay, now I can just append a 0, right? Because I can just append 1 0 and 1 1. So the length that I can append is this or this. So either I can append a 0 to this, I'll get a length 3. I can append a 1 to this and I'll get a length of string 3. Okay, so basically if we have a length of string of length k, and we need to create a string of length l, and the number of zeros that we can add is equals to, let's suppose, z represents zeros, and o represents, okay, I'm not going to use o, I'm going to use y for 1. Okay, because o, it looks like 0, right? So y represents 1, z represents the number of zeros that we can add. So if I need to create a string of length l, then what I can do is, to l, um, uh, I need to find the string of length k such that l minus z is equals to k, so that to the string of length k I can just add z number of zeros, and then I get the string of length l. Okay, similarly, I need to find another string of length k which is of length such that I can add y number of ones, and I'll get the string of length l. Okay, let's take an example. So first of all, we have a string as which is empty. Okay, now I want to create a string of length equals to 1. So what I can do is, I can I see the number of zeros. Okay, so I need to find string of length k equals to 0. Okay, k equals to 0, so that when I'm adding 0, I can add 10 and that string becomes of length 1. Okay, so I find the string of length empty string, and then I add a 0 to it, and I found a string of length 1. Okay, similarly we can add 1 once. Okay, so it is of length 1. So what I'm gonna do is, I want a string of length 1, so I can just look for, that is 1 minus, this is the value y, and I'm gonna look for string of length 0, which is an empty string. So initially we had an empty string, and now we can append a 1 to it. So basically we are getting two strings that we could form by appending 0 zeros and 1 ones to an empty string. Okay, so how many times did we perform our append? 2 times. Okay, now I need string of length 2. Okay, so since I need a string of length 2, and from that I'm gonna subtract the number of zeros. Okay, that is z, which is equals to z is equals to 1, so I'm gonna get value 1. So I need to find a string of length 1. Okay, so string of length 1 is 0 and 1, so I can add either to this or to this. So so what I'm gonna do is, we are going to add to both of these. Okay, so since we already have two strings of length 1 of length equals to 1, and now we are gonna create string of length equals to 2. Okay, so string of length 2, so we already added 0 to our string of length 1, and we have one string. Similarly, we add a 0 to our previous string of length 1, and we have two strings, right, of length 2. So that's 2. And what about if we wanted to add 1? Okay, so if we want to add a 1, so 1 is of length 1. Okay, so that is also b equals to 1, so we are going to append to string of length 1. So we can append to this, we get a string of length 2, we append to this, we get a string of length 2. So basically we appended, we have 0 and 1. To get string of length 2 with zeros, we add a 0, we added a 0. Okay, and similarly now for 0 1, we again appended 1 to those. So how many times did we perform our append operation? 4 times, right? So we got the string of length 2, which is equals to 4. Now similarly for length 3, we are gonna perform the same operation. So for length 3, what do we need is 3 minus the number of z's. If we are going to append z's, then we are going to take the string of length 2, and then that to that string of length 2 we are going to append 0 number of zeros. Okay, so that is only 1 0. So for that we need a string of length 2, right? So when we append 1 0 to a string of length 2, that gives us string of length 3, which is what we are going to create here. So we have these many strings, and to these strings now I'm going to append 0. So if I append 0 to all of these strings, so how many strings do I get? It is equals to 4, right? And now let's take the same thing for 1. So for 1 appending 1, I'll again need string of length 2, and these are the strings of length 2. Okay, so basically I am referring to this value, right? And then I'm going to add a 4 here because there are 4 strings of length 2 right here. So this is equals to 8 here, right? So basically what's happening is, to create a string of length 3, I'm just going to add all the strings of length 3 minus z plus all the strings as of length 3 minus 1s. Okay, and that will give me the string of length 3. And then finally that is our answer. Okay, so if like our low was equals to 2 and high was equals to 3, then our answer would be like string s and string s3. Okay, so our answer would be 8 plus 4. So basically that's just like adding all of those values. So this is how actually we are going to perform our create our solution. We are going to do dynamic programming. Why? Because we are referring to a value we previously got. Okay, so that is why this is a dynamic programming problem, and for that we need to create an array of length n plus 1, because for string of length 1 we are going to refer to string of length 0, and eventually our answer would be at as of index 3, which is equals to uh, n which is equals to our high. Okay, n is equals to our high value, and and yeah, that is how we are going to solve it. So now let's try to code our solution. So let's create, first of all, let's look at the constraint. So we have high and low, which is at least 1 and 2 to the power 5, and zeros and ones both are at least 1 and less than the low. Okay, so now let's create our array is equals to dp array. So I'll just write it dp equals to new array of length and high plus 1, because that is the maximum length that we want to create, right? And fill all of them with the value of 0 initially. Okay, now we are going to iterate for let I equals to starting from 1, because we know string of length 0 will be only 0 number of times. Okay, so now I is equals to 1, I is less than equals to high, and I plus plus. And here we are going to create our strings, right? Based on zeros and ones. So we are going to check if our 0 is less than or equals to value of our I, so that we do not exceed, go towards negative, because here what are we going to do is we are going to do I minus 0, right? So now our dp of I would be plus equals to dp of I minus 0. Okay, dp of I minus 0. So that is why we need to check this condition, because we don't want this to be negative. Okay, and now similarly we are going to check it for ones. So 1 is less than equals to I, then dp of I plus equals dp of I minus 1. Alright, so now that we have the values in our dp for each of the strings, length of each of the string of length I, now we need to find the values, find our good strings. Okay, so our good strings will have length at least low and at max high. So now let us create good strng strings is equals to 0, and now for let I is equals to low, I is less than equals to high, I plus plus. And then to good string we are just going to add our dp at and xi. Okay, so and finally we return our good string. Okay, so one thing we also need to do is take the modulo, right? So I'm just going to create a const variable mod equals to method power of 10 to the 7 to 9, right? To 9 plus 7. Okay, and then every time we are just going to do a mod. So dpi modulo equals to mod, and we are going to do the same here. So why am I, all right, it's strings. So good strings, string strings modulo equals to the mod value, and then let's try to run our code. Oh no, what's wrong here? So we are expected output is 8, but we are getting 0, so something is not working here. Actually, our dp of length empty should be equals to 1. Why? Because we have only one string. We can only have one number of strings that is empty, right? It's like this. Just let me show you here. So string empty, we can only have one string that is empty, right? But we can have like a string, two strings which is of length 0, like this, okay, which is of length 1, but we can only have one string which is of length 0, right? So that is why one string of length 0 is equals to 1. Okay, now let's try to run our code. Awesome, let's submit this. Oh, great. So here let's look at the time complexity. So we are using a for loop here, which is equals to the high, and we are also using a for loop here starting from I equals to low to high. So basically our time complexity is equals to big O of high, and our space complexity is also big O of high because we are creating an array of size high. All right, so that's all about this. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about my solution, and please don't forget to like my channel, like my video, and subscribe to my channel for more LeetCode daily challenges.